The discussion now is going to focus on our Interguard endpoint monitoring and security application and how it's relevant for organizations to protect HIPAA information from leaving the endpoint. So let's just start off with some relevant information right now. From a compliance perspective, healthcare organizations have historically struggled to securely transition from their analog roots of pen and paper to more agile digital world that other industries have long since adopted. So the rigors of the regulatory compliance surrounding electronic protected health information, or ePHI as it's known, places a tremendous burden on healthcare organizations to ensure that they both understand the vulnerabilities they face and have a solid security plan to effectively address them. That's why our product, Interguard, has focused its development on delivering managed solutions that lift the burden of compliance and security off of the shoulders of these organizations. So again, just a little history on the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, or HIPAA as it's known. It was passed and finalized in 1996. The Act sets national standards for the protection of individual medical information. The Act was passed by Congress as a response to the growing concern of easy accessibility to patient information. In February of 2009, President Obama signed the Health Information Technology for Economic and Clinical Health Act, or HITECH as it's known. This act extends certain aspects of HIPAA regarding security and privacy requirements. Additionally, mandates the federal security breach reporting requirements for compromised ePHI. So, whereas Technologies has developed solutions aimed at removing the cost and complexity of addressing the compliance and security of healthcare institutions of all sizes. By delivering our Interguard solution in elegant SaaS form factor, we have positioned ourselves as an ally in the quest for healthcare organizations to secure sensitive HIPAA and protected health information across the entire organization. What you are going to see now is a demonstration of our Interguard endpoint security solution and how we can address these HIPAA-related concerns. Preventing patient health information from leaving the endpoint. So very simply speaking, no problem with our product. So let's go into here, and we're going to go into my fully functioning demo unit here. We're going to create a new group. And this time we're going to create this group based on AD credentials because let's say this is a hospital emergency room and the nurses and doctors have to log into many different devices via their local admin privileges as an example. So let's go in here and create a new group. We're going to call this Yale ER PHI Protected Health Information Monitor as an example. Okay, let's just call it that. And now let's add our members to AD credentials. Stand by 1 second as I scan. I'm going to have to refresh this. Stand by 1 second. There we go. Put our user in here. As many users as you want to this group. Highlight. We created the monitoring group with our users based on ID credentials in it. Now I'm going to create a wildcard query search category to monitor specific types of HIPAA information from leaving the endpoint. So the first thing I want to bring up is, again, this alert word creation module here. So we want to create the category first that we want to monitor and block for. So we'll call this Yale ER PHI monitor. Okay, so let's start with that. Search for it. There we go. Now, as you can see here, we have a number of regular expressions, okay, for custom string queries that we can auto-populate this category container here for the specific word category we're creating. So obviously, when we're talking about patient health information, it's important. Social Security number loose, we want to scan for. Social Security number strict, we want to scan for. Put one more in here, but you get the idea. Let's just see, complete address or email address would be something that would be viable here. Let's just highlight all these. Now, the other thing I want to bring up here, there's obviously going to be situations where healthcare organizations, and this is due to the unique aspect of our healthcare system, that they're going to have different ways of database cataloging this stuff. They'll have unique identifiers, okay, unique ways they monitor or store this information as an example. So in that case, if there's a, let's say, specific way a health organization catalogs or creates database IDs for plan beneficiary information, as an example, or it's different from provider to provider, who knows, okay? All you have to do is use a third-party application like this. This one's Regex Buddy. I like this because they have some good screenshots we can show. So use a third-party application like this to create a custom regular expression or your choice, okay? Give that string over to us, okay? We will whitelist this into the software, and then you can then go and populate this category we just set up. The option will be here in the drop-down menu for that particular customer engagement. Okay, so we're not just limited to what's here, but again, we can't put millions upon millions of regular expressions into this category. It's not necessary. We just need to have specifics from the customer. So we're just moving on from here. So we created our work category to monitor this protected health information from leaving endpoints at Yale's ER Center. And now turn to recording and blocking. So we're going to set up the parameters of the policy here. Okay, and this is specifically the monitoring piece, but I'm going to segue this into a discussion of our data loss prevention piece. So we're going to kill two birds with one stone here. Okay. So what we're going to do now is keep the investigation mode on. We're going to record all the emails that are going out, the instant messaging and chat. We want to make sure that information is going out through those portals, if you will. Keystrokes are going to be logged, of course. Recording websites, maybe, because there may be a situation where there could be data dumped into a website that allows for people to dump this information into a web form and send this information overseas to a identity fraudster in Crimea, as an example. Recording programs probably not necessary for the documents. What if somebody sends this information up to a printer, as an example? We may want that information. Network bandwidth probably not necessary for this policy. File tracking will be off. Recorded login events, we'll keep that on from a forensics perspective. We're not going to block the websites. We're not going to block the programs. We're not going to do smart camera screenshots of this data. We do want to have alert word screenshots set up. Okay, so I'll need to save the policy first. Let's go here. Let's just call this search for Yale. Here we go. So anytime they type or view that Social Security number information or that plan beneficiary number information based on the custom string, okay, we're going to then, as I showed you earlier, we're going to take a screenshot of that activity. So just going back here to show you again the logical connection between the two. If somebody did view or type Social Security number information or plan beneficiary information, anything related to a HIPAA compliance perspective, we would have a screenshot of that information and what they were doing at the endpoint at that time. So as you can see here, if they typed in the Social Security number, reviewed it, right, dump a whole bunch of this patient information into a web form, we have a window as to what exactly they were doing at that time. So moving forward, back to policy creation here, everything is set up, okay? So now we're going to monitor all this information. So that's one step. We also do want to create a notification here, okay? based upon this alert word. So we want to alert the compliance officers, okay, when this protected health information, this HIPAA information will potentially leave the endpoint. Very simple for us to do. Let's go in and create a notification. And we're going to just base this on word categories. We're going to call this HIPAA, hold on a second, compliance endpoint alert. Very easy. Click next. So we're just going to find our alert word category. You're also going to see that we have this option here. We can queue these reports based upon these parameters because of the sensitive nature of the information, and because the fines based on HIPAA information can be quite costly. We want an immediate report on this. We're going to catch that data in midstream, and we're also going to apply this to our custom monitor group with all our users in there via AD credentials. Okay, and we can toggle here to see who's in there, which we already have been able to do. We're going to email ourselves a report. The compliance officer, whoever is in charge of managing this data, add. Just check all of our parameters here to make sure everything is good, and just hit finish. So if this patient health information, this protected health information, anything HIPAA based upon our policy alert or category scenario that we set up, we're going to get a notification on that immediately. Very powerful HIPAA, and you can also apply this to PCI as well, scanning for credit card information, customer information. Very powerful tool at the endpoint to monitor this type of information from leaving the endpoint in the first place, thus ensuring your customer's PCI and HIPAA compliance. I want to segue that into our data loss prevention module, okay? So we're going to add a data loss prevention policy to this HIPAA policy that we just created, okay? So we're talking about DLP here. Again, we already created the group, so let's go to group management. We already know our group exists, so we'll just double check here. We'll just go back into it. And here's our group, ER, Patient Health Information Monitor. That group already exists, and we've gone ahead and noticed about how easy it is to create policy to this group. Just create your policy group container, put your users into it based on AD credentials or NetBIOS address. Now we go into policy management for our data loss prevention module. We call data lock. Pretty cool. So now we're just going to choose our group. Okay, so we can monitor all this PHI information leaving the endpoint, but we want to block it from leaving the endpoint too. So what we're going to do now is we can create layers of policies within this group here. So first for email, okay, we can block all this patient health information from leaving the endpoint. We just select our alert word category that we set up. Obviously, the mission critical nature of this data is for every single instance, we want to have that information blocked. Okay, we don't want it going out. We're going to apply this to all email, and we have already assigned this from a policy perspective to our monitoring group. Click next. We're going to name the policy. We're going to call this Yale ER PHI. One second. Info block. Give it a description, severity, obviously high, overridable. We can give people the option to override the policy in case they need to get it off the endpoint or send it out via email. That can then be approved by a manager. Okay, we'll show you that in a second. We're going to upload the context, the metadata, or actually the actual name of the policy that they violated here, in this case, ELER PHI info block. We're going to upload the metadata that triggered the alert and triggered the block, and we're not just going to run this report only. Report only means that they're not going to see the policy violation pop-up screen that would occur if they were in violation of policy. That would be for a custom situation where you actually want to catch somebody you know who is already a bad actor. Okay, so we set up the policy. This is one way we can do this. We can block by email, scanning for these alert words that we created from a HIPAA or protected health information perspective. We can also block this information from being sent up to a device, anything with a drive letter attached to it. That could be a printer with a flash drive, by the way, example. So they'll still be able to use the printer because we have a filter built into the software that recognizes that, but we're only blocking it from going into the flash drive associated with the printer, as an example. So go back here, come down again to our alert word category. Okay, so we're going to block that from being uploaded to a device with a drive letter attached to it. We also have more of a data loss prevention, all or nothing policy here. So anybody tries to plug a USB thumb drive into this endpoint here, we can prevent them from both writing and both reading and writing information to that drive, as an example. And finally, we can also scan for data at rest. So let's say a poorly partitioned network folder or drive had not been set up properly from a security posture perspective, and somebody actually happened to get in there. Let's say it was a series of Word docs which had development code on them. Okay, we can set up a alert word category to scan for custom strings in that development code from a custom alert word category perspective. We can also block file types and supplies also to the email and the uploading to external storage drive category. Obviously, these 40 categories here comprise pretty much every single category type out there. Okay, so we would just click on the category we're concerned with. Okay, then we would just click next. We apply it to our monitoring group, give it a name, and that's it. So that's our data loss prevention policy setup wizard. So again, in this context right now, we're talking about setting up a DLP policy to prevent patient health information from leaving the endpoint. So what happens now is if somebody violates this policy we just set up here, okay? First off, the policy is engaged. The algorithm is scanning this content all the time from leaving the endpoint, okay? So if the metadata is scanned to possess the queries or the constituents of our alert word category that we set up, this is what the user will see on their screen. That's going to be pretty jarring. They're going to see the policies that they violated. They're going to have a choice to either accept or override that information. So before I move on, it's pretty jarring and pretty powerful stuff to enforce compliance internally inside of an organization for critical data. Any questions on what you've seen so far? Don, are you there?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm here. I did.
Okay.
I was going to ask you a question, and then I just found the answer. I think you said they have the option. They have the option to override, but you're saying I'm looking closely at it. It says request an override. That doesn't mean they're going to get one.
Doesn't mean they're going to get one. It gives, and I'm going to show you that in a second. That's an excellent question. So they can request the override, and then what will happen is the person who's in charge of administrating this policy will get an email, okay, and they'll get a link. They can then log into the management console here, and then they can take a look at the actual incident, okay, and they actually can see the policy that was violated, okay, information on that. They can also see the metadata that tripped up the policy as an example, okay, and then if there was a legitimate request for the employee sending this information out, they can request the override, as we just saw. Then the manager provides notes on why he's authorizing the override. And then if this was an email that was blocked by the mail server, then there's nothing else the employee has to do. The email will automatically go out. Okay? The brakes will be taken off of it. If this is a situation where they need to get the information uploaded to a personal storage device, they need to do some work on the weekend with it, as an example. All I have to do is replug the device back into the USB port. The agents will recognize that the policy has been approved by management, and they will be able to upload the appropriate content as they need to. Okay, so some very fine, minutia-based policy control here with this particular module of ours.